Let's give a big round of applause for the one, the only Noseman.
Thank you. We're going to have some fun today. Okay, so the title of my presentation is Anamorphic Projections for Displays and all that. And I need to slow it down because it's so simple. The stuff you see at Times Square and all that, that seem that things are jumping out of the screens and all that, it's so simple to implement. The concept is so simple that I need to drag it on to make it about 45 minutes of interesting content, right? In the meantime, we will touch upon certain things which I believe are generally interesting, that have to do with reprojections and so forth. So this is an image from a website from a company that manufactures these massive screens. And the reason I'm showing it to you is because it just happened to open last. But anyway, what I would like to start with, and the mouse is reverted. So this is my preferred navigation, reverse orbit, right? If anything today, just turn to reverse orbit. Now what you will see here, which is one of the most important things of this presentation, is that your anamorphic projection, when viewed from the correct angle, will seem like a 3D thing that's coming out or going in and so forth. But if you see it from any other angle, it doesn't look that good. So if you're down the street walking under one of these and you're not where you're supposed to be, you're not going to see what the designers wanted you to see. That is the most important thing if you ever have to design one of these anamorphic projections to keep in mind. The number one important thing is for the client or for your department to tell you what is the optimum position, and that is one person's eye. It's one human that will need to stand in a specific spot. So if this is my anamorphic screen and there's a lot of traffic, let's say this is the point where most people are going to walk through. This is going to be the angle you are going to choose to make it the optimal angle. From this angle, I'm going to see all the wow. From other angles, it's not going to look that good. And I'm going to show you how you can get something of the utmost beauty to look not so good if you don't do a good selection. So let me find that. Okay. So this is a photo of the booth from a position where the gentleman is starting there, okay? I took it this morning with my iPhone. And the number one thing you would require is either a pre-built model of the screen and the street positions and all that, because we need to know in the 3D scene where that unique position is and where we want the screen to be in relation to that person. So as you can see from this image over here, in order to recreate this, and you will see that once I recreate I can see it properly from any angle, right? This is what we call reprojection. And although it's not very important for what we are going to do today, it relies on the same principles of reprojecting. You get a distorted image, which has this perspective. You find where the camera is. You project the image from the camera, and then the thing looks as if it's correct. Always we have these little areas because we're missing a few millimeters here, a few millimeters there. But this is the basic technique for reprojecting things. Now, how are we going to use this in order to create our anamorphic display? So let's begin from the very, very simple stuff. I'm going to go and find a display. Here we go. Here's one of my displays, right? And this is one of my graphics. This is one of two potential scenes I can choose to create. What I've done here, I've taken a plane, I've made a rounding, and you can see from the other angles, this is a proper 3D scene, okay? I've animated the doors, I've animated the bottle. What is important here is if you observe the light blue stuff in the sky, everything that's inside the black, that is the display itself. So we may think that things are coming out of the display when we look at it, because we see these photos or these videos where it's cats coming out, it's dinosaurs coming out, it's spaceships and all that. But it's not stereoscopic, that nothing is coming out. It's just a projection on a flat screen that may have different shapes. Now, why is this and how is this important? When you're setting up your scene, you have to make sure that you do not have edge violation. Edge violation is when anything you are trying to animate or create happens to lie in the black area. Because that black area doesn't exist. There's no image to be projected there. If you had a bigger screen, yes, but you can't see anything that's outside of your screen. So when you're animating your bottle or whatever else you want to do, this will not work. The cap is going to be cut. The reason I emphasize this, although it seems that it's very straightforward, is I've had customers in the past that were doing stereoscopic 3D for television, back for Sky Sports, that did not understand that everything happens in your brain, not in front of you in your living room. The images you see outside of the TV need to be within the frame of the television. And it may sound a bit odd, but a lot of people that are not in our industry, pretty much all your clients, may not understand that. They may think that the TV is projecting something, and if someone is walking between you, they would hit the bottle or the box or something like that. Believe me, that is not happening. There is no box. It's all in your brain. So edge violations, avoiding edge violations is the number one thing in order to get a successful anamorphic projection. So I didn't use this bottle in the end. And I think what I did here, I didn't use this either. What I do, my strategy is open all the files and just close the ones you don't need. Good. And I settled with this little dinosaur. Let me see if this is the correct one. There you go. So I thought, why don't I do something where the illusion is that there's something inside the building and it's sort of walking and doing all those things. And I chose this dinosaur, which is the T-Rex from our asset browser. And I created a ceiling and a background and a floor. I put some dynamic lights, some dramatic lighting there and all that. I told you I'm not an artist. And from this point of view, it looks good, right? The fallacy of looking at your 3D model to see what everyone else is going to see, if someone is walking down the street from that angle, they are not going to see that, all right? Because I've heard of stories for things that exist in Vegas, very big, round, spherical things. The customer expected things to come in from the inside and come outside, being visible from all views. Because a lot of people think that it's a 3D dome with pixels that go all the way in, right? No, it's just a spherical monitor. That's it. So it's a two-dimensional image. So never do the mistake to assume that anyone walking down the street from this angle is going to see the backside of the dinosaur. They are not. Always, exclusively, and only view things from the optimum angle. And if you want to see what's going to be visible in the final projection, you have to go through the whole process. There's no shortcut. I cannot do anything now to immediately go around and see how it will look if it's projected from a different angle. I cannot do that. And now let's start with a process. So all this is theory, but how do we actually do that? The first quick thing is to model your monitor. I'm going to go through everything as an overview. So here's my monitor. Make sure you have enough subdivisions. Put the correct dimensions. So you're going to ask your client for a CAD model or the absolute dimensions. You need that stuff. You need to know how you need to know the measurements from the point they want to be the ideal point. Or you go there with your phone, as I did, and I'm going to start with a phone. I think that's more fun. You create a standard camera. A lot of the stuff we're going to do today is not Redshift. You can do your final render in Redshift, but all the other stuff that's going to allow you to take your 3D render and make it into a projection, we're just going to use standard renderer because we don't need an extra lighting and all that. We just want it to throw the pixels on a projected frame. So I'm going to change from Redshift to my standard renderer, no problem. I'm going to get a standard camera, and I'm going to use something called Shift-C to get the, and I'm going to call Calib. I cannot teach you how to type. The camera calibrator tag allows us to get a photo that has pretty decent perspective lines and recreate the camera position from that. It's a single frame camera tracking mechanism. And you go to image and you load that image. And this is the photo booth. So this is the image. It aligns the aspect ratio and all that. Shift V, get rid of safe frame, so I get rid of the bars. Excellent. And the way you're going to do this is, I can see my aspect ratio 1.3, so it's 4:3. Maybe I need to go here and do a 4:3. So that will be, I remember these numbers from the old days. The good old days. There you go. You just need the aspect ratio, because otherwise you're going to get crops, top and bottom. Anyway, so now let's go to this tag and say calibrate. We can draw lines, we can draw grids, and we can draw a pin, which is the last thing. Add a grid. Because I have a square area here, a distorted square, a grid is perfect. I need 4 corners, good, accurate corners. Any of them. Click and drag. You get a little magnifying thing. Boop. I don't like this mouse, by the way. Good. So you try to do it as accurately as possible, and then you use your Shift key, and you click on this until it becomes the color of the axis you want. I want the X to be that way, and I'm going to go here with Shift and click Y. So now the camera knows where the X and Y vanishing point is. I'm going to do the same for the Z by using a line. I'm going to add a line, drag it here, put it in the corner, drag this here, put it in the corner. Good. Shift click and until it goes blue. All right. Add line. Let's add a few more on the Z. Hopefully the table was set straight. You have to rely on humans sometimes. So add a line, and let's do a third Z. And where should I go? I'm going to do it here. There you go. Good. And here it says that yellow means it's kind of solved with a bit of an error. And the camera focal length, which is what we're interested in, is solved. Because no two human are going to view this from exactly the same spot, even a distance, interocular distance between two different people are going to see something slightly different. So being off by a few millimeters doesn't matter. You can be off by feet and it doesn't matter. So this is my solve. And the only thing I need to do now is add a pin where I want the world 000 to be. And when I do this, I'm going to put it down here. I don't like this mouse. Now everything is solved. If you do know the dimensions of what you're doing, you can go to one of these. Let's go to the grid. And I think this is 18 feet tall. So go to the Y and type 18 FT for feet. And it will convert it centimeters. So now it actually is, everything is in the correct dimensions. And that's it. So now my camera exists in a world, which I need to turn this off here, there you go, exists in a world where it has the correct focal length for that perspective and is in the right angle and position given the dimensions of my screen. Now let's reproject this very quickly and create very simply a background object. Let's create a material, standard material, we're not in Redshift. Let's go to the luminance and let's add that thing which is in the text and it's the photo booth. No, doesn't matter. Let's apply this here. And what I'm going to do is on the material tag, I'm going to set the projection to camera projection, camera mapping. And I'm going to take the camera I want to project from and drag it in here and calculate. There it is. Going to make sure we have better view. Go to your material, go to the viewport, and say no scaling. This means it's going to project the image pixel by pixel correctly without doing any interpolation. So what I have here now is a background projection of an image and the image itself. Everything looks cool, so let's make it look cooler. I'm going to create a null. On the null, I'm going to copy this material. I just want to keep the camera projection. And let's go and create a cube. I'm going to move this cube, so the corner of the cube is exactly on the 0, 0. Remember I put the world position there? So 0, 0. I'm using the technique called eyeballing. In French it's eyeballer. No, it's not. I live in Quebec, they're going to find me. They know where I live. So I'm going to make this editable. You can see that it aligns perfectly with that corner. How convenient. So let me get out of the camera. Let's go over here. We can still see the overlaid image, and that is in order to confuse you. It's doing it on purpose. All I want to do here is just remove the elements I don't need, just so that I have less distractions. If I go here now, all I have to do is use some sort of point moving thingy-madoodle to move everything to its final position. I don't even need to take measurements because now everything is just visual. Okay? Select these. Everything I'm showing you can be applied to set extensions, to scene reconstruction and all that. They all have the same fundamental background, but we're only talking about anamorphic reprojections. Okay, because that's what I promised to show. Put the cube in here. Now what we're getting, if I turn off this, we're getting that final thing I showed you where, look at this, we can actually see things correctly, right? We've reconstructed this cube over here. Now the last thing I'm going to show, although I shouldn't because it's not part of the presentation, is well, how do you make this box, right? This is protruding, and because it's not on the same level, it looks distorted. If I go on the side here, it looks terrible. Look at that, doesn't look good. Well, that's because the cube needs to be pulled out. So let's go back here, and let's press KL for loop cut, and let's go and cut it where we need to cut it, here and here. Good. And let's select this polygon now. So let me go to my move tool, select the polygon, D for extrude. There it is. So now if I go again to the side, now I can see this correctly. And I can do the same for the TV and so forth. All right? I have seen screens that sometimes have multiple levels. All right? So this would be the way you would create those extensions once you have your main screen. So now, let's move on to the other stuff because we still have to do baking, we have to do all sorts of things. So which file shall we look at now? All right, we've got our, whatever we're doing here, let's go 90 degrees. 90 degrees, so how do we use the bend deformer to bend something? First we type the number because we need to see where it's bending. I'm saying that because I've been using this for over 20 years and I still get confused which way it goes. Right, I know it's the big arrow pointing to the small arrow. I don't get it. So let's find which one. No, it's not this, it's always the third one. So there you go. I'm going to make this 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter, right? And now I'm going to align this using rotation to my object. It's always 90 degrees or something this way, and maybe 90 degrees that way. There you go. 90, there we go. So now I can apply it. Good. So here's my screen. We're going to do a mock screen. Make sure after you've created it with your deformer, it's good practice to make it editable, okay? Because when we're going to bake something, if it's deformed, it's not going to bake properly. You do need a flattened mesh. So best thing, right click, current state to object, get rid of this. So now we have this mesh over here. So let's assume that we've found the angle of the camera and all that nice stuff, right? Let's assume this is the angle of our camera. Let's make sure I'm going to use a standard render for now, just standard render. We're going to switch later on. Let's add a camera from this position. So this is our projection camera. So projection camera. And let's assume that this is what we need to do. What I like to do is remodel the outside. For me, it's very convenient to take this, make a copy, go take the sides of this. So I'm going to do this and shift click to do this. D for extrude. It's going 90 degrees, so I'm going to tell rotation to -90 and continue that way. Good. I've got these points here. I'm going to extend these as much as I need, just so that they're outside the plane, because otherwise I get irritated. I'm very easily irritated. I'm, I guess, like a cat or something, you know, very moody. I'm getting old, so I'm just making copies of these. And now let's go and delete everything inside this, right? We don't need these anymore, because I want to create that window. You don't need to create that window, but it's good to have it, because it will give you better control on how to set your animation, so that you know if it's going to have edge violation and so forth. And of course, go revert the normals if you feel like doing it. I think it's good practice. So now I have my window in the world, which is going to be my projection, right? It's a good, you know, mental correlation. I have a window where I can put things behind, and I want to see things only through that window. And just make it black for absolutely no reason. There you go. Nice and black. So now we're going to go and set up our animation. And I don't know, let's just do something. I'm going to get a sphere, and this sphere is going to move from left to right without doing any edge violation. I'm not going to do it. I'm just now pretending that I'm coming up with a very novel idea. I'm going to get a sphere, it's going to move left to right. Oh, fantastic. The equivalent of what I'm doing now is what I'm doing. Let me see if it's this one. Yes, okay. So where I am with that sphere is exactly where I am with my dinosaur. I've got my window all nicely made. Here's my window. I've named it window. I've got my animation, what I'm trying to do. I've created a little, don't move the camera. I've created a little box for my dinosaur to live in. Later on, I will realize that it will have been better if I added some content on that ceiling, but that is an artistic, the artistic decision. Excellent. So we're done with our concept, we're done with our camera position, we've done our window, and everything is fine. Now what? What I'm going to do now is using Redshift, because we want to light this properly, we want to make our animation. This is the point where materials, lighting, everything you want about the look of what you're doing is important. Up to this point, it wasn't important. So you set up all your lights, do whatever you need to do, and then you are going to render your animation. When I render this, this is what I'm going to get. Let me go and open it, because I've already rendered it, and it's in the final projection. I'm going to open this. This is no, this is not the final projection. Oh, wrong. I need to open another software. Photoshop. I apologize for the delay. Adobe's up there. You can go and complain, please. So, on my computer, of course, NAB and image sequence. Look at that. There we go. This is not it, but Zen moment. Where's my animation? I need to go to animation something. Yeah, when I shouldn't have switched computer. I apologize, it's my mistake. Motion, is this the one I need? It's this, okay. Yeah, I wanted to show in its proper aspect ratio. I do not know what's going on here. It needs to render in its own aspect ratio, although it doesn't make a difference, to be honest with you. So I'm going to render it again. There you go, the best solution. So this is my 3D dinosaur, and I'm just going to go and render it. What I've done here, the one thing I've done is I changed a bit the focal length of the camera. As long as your position and your angle is correct, changing the focal length, zooming in a bit to get it tighter, it doesn't matter. It won't make a difference, as long as you don't violate the edges. I do not want the camera to cut into my window, okay? So remember that. And if you have too much bleeding area, the problem is these displays are 7, 8, 10,000 pixels wide. And if you want to do this, which is under an angle, and have enough resolution so that when it's reprojected, you have those 10,000 pixels, you're going to have to render this 15,000 pixels wide. So if you've got redundant space around you here and here, that adds to pixels you don't need. So always make sure, and that's the reason I made sure that I had the tightest fit without violating the shape I'm trying to project. So let's go and render this. Because it's standard renderer, it's going to just take a couple of minutes. The aspect ratio is 920 by 1770. Let's go here and let's first of all frames, 49 frames. Let's go and save this, and it's going to be in a folder called renders NAB, dinosaur, and PNG just to trigger you, right? That's what I'm doing. Some people don't like PNGs, and that's why I'm doing it. So there we go. Delete this. So this is my render, and you can see it's going to finish in about, I don't know, a minute or two. So in the meantime, is there any question, is there anything ambiguous about what I've said up to this point? If there is, hold your questions and ask them when we do the Ask the Trend. No. If anyone has a question, we have a minute or so. Let me know. Nothing? Good. Excellent. So let's wait for the render to finish. And while this is going on, I'm going to prepare the next stage. I think that's a good idea. So this is my render file, and I'm going to save it as, always use meaningful names, okay? Always, right? Always use meaningful names. And while this is rendering, I'm going to go and remove the sky, this is my window, and this is my display. There you go, this is my display. I need my display. I do not need my window anymore. I do not need the shelves, or the T-Rex, or the lights. This is the scene now I'm going to use. It's exactly the same scene. Camera's in the same position. The only thing I need now is my canvas to reproject what I'm rendering down here onto this. Question? Let's go. Ask a question. Yeah.
I said, since you're using a projection, that means you don't have to UV unwrap anything, right?
Good question. So the question was, sorry about that. I just can't help myself. Messing with the camera operators. Never do that. Never do that. They can make you look really ugly. Not me, but other people. So the question was, because we're using a camera projection, we don't need to care about UV mapping. We do, because we are going to bake it. So the camera projection itself, you don't need any UV unwrapping, because that's what the camera projection does. It creates a frontal projection from the camera point of view. It's modifying the UVs on itself. All the projections, by the way, in case you didn't know it, if you get any material and you apply it to any object, this projection here is modifying the UVs to that configuration. That's what it does. So the UVs are being modified even with the camera projection. But in any case, we're going to do UV unwrapping here as well. So while I was delaying, thank you for the question, this is rendered. It's finished rendering. And here's our dinosaur. Good? And we're going to just close this for a second. And let's go back to our scene. We don't need any of this anymore. This scene, which has been very, very carefully named, we know which scene this is. I'm going to save it. Good. Don't forget, before we reproject, make sure you bake down the object. So current state to object. Fantastic. Here's my display. Excellent. Now, although currently it's not necessary, a good rule of thumb when you're doing reprojections and stuff like that is to have a decent tessellation in your object. This would work, but if it's, instead of long strips of polygons, if it's nice little a grid line, it's going to be better. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to do it in a second. So what do I need to do now to create the projected image? I just need a standard material. So you switch, you did your render in Redshift, right? Beautiful lights, beautiful reflections, materials, fantastic, Oscar-winning, beautiful visuals. Now we switch back to standard because all we need to do is throw the pixels on our display. It doesn't really need to render, right? It's not real rendering. It's scanline. It's not even ray tracing, it's just scanline. Just put the pixels over there because we are providing the image to the renderer. So, switch to standard. It's already switched. Double click to create a standard material. Double click the material and go into the luminance. Make sure you name this. Right. I can't stress it enough. And in here we're going to load the render we just did. So that render, see when you don't name things, I forgot where I saved it. Yes, renders NAB, thank you. That's why I'm doing this, because I get help. So the image is not in the scene. This is what gets me in trouble every single time when I move computers, but I don't care. I'm going to double down and do it again. So make sure that the other very important thing, MIP mapping. If you want the projection to be correct without any blurriness, MIP mapping is a way to avoid anti-aliasing what's it called when you get anti-aliasing, those little steps. By MIP mapping just blurs between the pixels to make it easier on the eye, but we don't want that because our render is already anti-aliased. So make sure in order to get your perfect image to set it to none. That's number one. Number two, let's load an animation here. Click on this, go to animation and calculate. It will calculate each frame, and now this is an animation. We're not done yet. Go to the viewport, change this to no scaling, just because we want to see it that way, and make sure you have animate preview. With animations, it's okay, but, and turn off your color, because this is in luminance channel. Let's now drop this onto the display and make sure the projection is camera mapping. This is my camera. Calculate, and and what else do I need to do here? Let me see if my normals are okay. My normals are okay because everything is orange, so that's fantastic. So what we have at this point, this is the point where you will know if your image needs, if you need to recreate your animation. because now you can get out of the camera and look at your image and see what's visible. So if you want to see what someone just crossing the street from this side is, that's what you're going to see. Now, there was something about the image being dark. I think it has to do with my color management. I don't remember what I did, to be honest with you. Maybe turn this to sRGB or RAW or something like that. I do not remember. Automatic, sRGB, no, maybe RAW. RAW? Is it RAW? That's a bit bright, but I don't care, right? It's something about the color management. I'm not going to deal with it now. But what you're seeing here now is how this will look from different angles. So if I go back to my camera, look at this. This looks really nice and straight. If I go off view, so anyone that's walking under the street and looks up will see a dinosaur butt and this thing that doesn't look good. So my suggestion would be, maybe I shouldn't have made that a corner. Maybe I should have rounded it. But this is the iterative process you need to go through when you're doing these anamorphic projections, because any mistake you do at this point, it's going to be carried along for the rest of the process, right? So I know it's not convenient, and it would be lovely if there was a way when we were building the 3D animation to have a view of how it looks from another angle. Maybe we can make up some rig or something like that. You can render a single frame, that will be one thing. Instead of rendering a whole animation, render a single frame and project that and see if that looks nice. And that's why it's good to keep the original scene with your window and your screen. Okay, so let's assume that this gets approved and that both you and the customer are happy for everyone to see this from this angle and this from this angle and so forth. So we've got approvals. The final stage is how now do we get this as one image, flat image. When this image is projected on that curved wall, will look just like this. And this will be done by using a bake object or bake material. I think it's, let's go to tags, sorry, here, bake object or bake material. Let's try bake object. Yes, this is the one. No, it's not the one. It's bake material. It's always the second one. See, that's the rule. It's always the second one. It's like the USB has 3 sides. You know, everyone knows that. This is exactly the same thing. So let's do that again. Tags, object, and bake material. So bake material is going to add a tag here. This is very similar to the bake sets that Redshift has. And it works in a similar fashion. What do we need to do? Well, before we do anything, we need to make sure that our UVs are pretty decent. This is a UV time. Let's go to the UV edit, and let's look at our display. And you can see that the UV configuration takes up the full UV tile. Make sure, very important, that the left tile is on the left. So let's go and select here, this tile is on the left. Make sure that this tile is on the right. And let's make sure that the points on the top are on the top. Ooh, look at that. I select the top point and it's at the bottom. No. Because it is going to work, but just in case, select all your UV polygons here, all the UV polygons, and mirror V. Just mirror V, that's it. Let's try again. The top point are the top points. The left points are the left points. Excellent. Fantastic. Everything is aligned. Top left is top left, bottom right is bottom right. Excellent. Now our UVs are complete. Let's make sure we save another file with a very, very, very specific name. Okay, there we go. Standard. Now that UVs are correct, what you need to do is set your resolution. right? This is the most important thing about the resolution. The resolution of the baking is how the final image, how long it's going to be. That is ideally the resolution of the display. So if your customer says, if your client says it's 12,000 pixels long all the way around, that is the number you're going to put in here. For good measure, add a 20%. Always, it's better to have more than have less. And then you can downsample it and do whatever you want. So I'm not going to do 12,000 pixels. I'm going to do 24, no, not even that. I'm going to do 1024. I don't have to do powers of 2, but I will because I don't care. So there you go. You can put any resolution, doesn't really matter because then they can compress it into that. Let's say the configuration of my monitor is 1024 by 1024 and the hardware compresses it and makes it nice and whatever. Doesn't make a difference. And we're going to go the file type. Let's go and put this in a folder, which is right-click, new folder. Let's call this 00 underscore final underscore final underscore final final finish 011. Okay, that resembles most people's workflow. I want to make sure that everyone feels at home here, and call this display for whatever reason. Okay, so we added a name, the file type. Okay, you must be very good with file types. Let's make it JPEG. Okay, and in the options now, this is important. What channel do I want to bake? Well, which channel is our image on? It's the luminance. So make sure that you're baking the luminance. And the most important thing of all other important things, auto UV off. Off means use whatever you have, don't recreate UVs. And now the moment of truth. Let's preview this. If this looks like this, if it looks broken, that means it's correct. So now, in the details, you can tell it which frames use current rendered data. That means it's going to use the frame rate from 0 to 48 and all that. And let's go to options and bake. And you can see a preview, it's baking. Okay, so let's wait for a minute. It's not going to take long. And again, if you're wondering why aren't we doing this in Redshift, it's because we don't need to. All this is doing is taking the distorted image we're seeing on our display and recompositing it so that it complies to the rectangular UV dimensions. That's what it's doing. And we don't need render. We just need it to transfer each pixel in its right position. Excellent. So let's go and see that thing. Shall we see it in After Effects or Photoshop? Okay, let's go and see it. Let's find the final. See, if you put nice names, you can find it immediately, right? Let's select it, image sequence, 30, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There you go. Here is my final image. This is what we just did. It looks so odd. Let's see how it looks if we project it on our screen, because that is what we want to do. Let's go back to Cinema 4D. Save this as another file. So, name. I'm going to be creative here, right? So, let's now go and just replace this thing over here. We're going to replace it with our new image. So let's go back here. Let's go final. Get this. No. Click on this. Make sure we go to animation. Calculate. Everything is here. So, oh my God, it's broken. It's broken. No, it's just that this is still projecting using the camera projection, right? We don't need that. We don't want the camera projection now. Now we need a UVW projection. And this is it. That's it. This is the file. This final animation is the file you are going to give your client, and when they play it on their screen, they are going to get this. And on that bombshell, do you have any questions? All right, so let me say a few things which are very important. I work for a Maxon training team. We are the coolest. No, don't. But we're very, they are very humble. So I just learned how to spell humble. What a terrifying word. We do a lot of live shows. We are entertainers because we think that by entertaining people and giving them valuable information, they're going to enjoy learning. The other thing we do, our shows has a range of Ask the Trainer every first and third Thursday of every month. If you go to maxon.net and look for events, we have a whole events page that has all these videos and live shows. We have Create with Maxon, which every month we choose a theme and we work with any of our Maxon tools. Previously we did some high-end gaming assets with ZBrush. If you want to catch the shows recorded, they'll be on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel. But we are streaming both on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel and the Maxon Maxon YouTube channel. So you can see them. Sometimes we stream on the ZBrush YouTube channel. There is so much content. If you get your employers allow you to learn, and let's say 50% of my time I'm learning, 50% of the time I'm working. That's never going to happen. I'm just saying numbers here. You can learn for the rest of your lives, okay, and not work. That's magnificent. So please go to our YouTube channels, follow our content, ask your questions. The Ask the Question, which I usually host, we have a little form. You go, you ask your question, you put your name, you tell us if you want us to contact you and all that. Your privacy is always respected because the company is German, not because we wanted to. So make sure you ask your questions. Don't be shy. I'm going to be around today and tomorrow. My job is to entertain you and teach you some stuff. So please come over, talk to me, find me. My email is A_Pozantzis. I'm going to write it down. Putting your email in public, I think that's not a very good idea. I don't care. I trust you all. So, A_Pozantzis at maxon.net or training@maxon.net. If you have questions, if you want to inquire for teams, customers, if you have a group of people you want to train, we're there for you. Our training is very, very good, mine especially. So I think that concludes the presentation. And if you do have questions, if you want to see more stuff and all that, I'll be here today and tomorrow. Thank you very much for coming.
Awesome, everyone. A big round of applause for the one, the only Noseman. Please stay tuned. Take a little break. We'll be back here within the next 10 minutes for your very next presenter. So stay tuned.